I hate working from home. Absolutely hate it with a passion. It drives me nuts. I'm not motivated. I don't know how people can do it.
There's one thing I will say though, is you have to screen them because 78% of people do lie. So I'm not saying candidates are all amazing. I'm saying you got to know out of 100 which are the top 3 most amazing. And if you don't have that ability, you're at the whim of an interview, a really good resume, and being impressed by someone's appearance and the charming thing they say.
The way I deal with delegation is that I'm not ultimately delegating anything without there being a backstop or a safeguard. There's always a fallback. Okay, welcome to another episode of the Lat Chat. I'm very excited today because we've got a very special guest, Marnie Jones, the founder of Talent X. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I thought the special guest was Toufic.
And the super special guest is obviously my co-founder, Toufic Haddad. Thanks for jumping on, mate.
I'm very excited, very nervous actually.
You don't need to be nervous, it's just me.
I know, but I don't like cameras. I feel like everything I'm going to say can and will be used against me in the court of public opinion. And I don't like public opinion.
I try my best to protect you and the business, but we've got the ability to edit, after. But we've got Marnie here to make sure everything's under control, and
it's nice to have you, Marnie.
PG-13. Oh, thanks, Charles.
Yeah, thanks so much, Marnie, for jumping on. So obviously you're very talented individual. You're very much part of the Latitude accountant story. We've mentioned you a whole bunch of times in the podcast before, and if I had $1 for every time something we learned in one of your courses or in one of our strategy sessions came up, I'd have at least $1 million by now. So, obviously, I've been keen to get you on from day one, but now that you're here, we're going to use this time to extract as much value for free out of this session.
Love it.
as possible.
Love it.
So you're the founder of Talent X and Educate X. Mm-hmm. And the third one is
Business Power X.
Business Power X. So you're a bit of a
X gang.
There you go. So
Triple X gang.
Triple X gang.
Edit that out, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You're a bit of a all-rounder when it comes to business, a business consultant, recruitment. You're very knowledgeable in the space. But if you can just kick off by giving us a little bit of your background and how you got into the business world, that'd be good.
So when I was 19, I scored a traineeship in a business consultancy firm in Leichhardt in West Sydney. And I was like the one that would run around and get the tables ready and print the materials and like get clients coffee and stuff like that. And in exchange for literally, I think I was on $500 a week, I would be taught by the founder on a very specific curriculum that we would implement with clients over a series of weeks, which meant that basically you're like a teacher. So I didn't need to have experience in business because as long as I could teach someone very specific information and get them to apply it, then I could be good at my job. So I was quite lucky because most consultants you need to run a business. And here I am 19. I finally got my first client after I think about 6 months. And then I worked my way up basically. So we would have client sessions. I didn't have a life for 8 years. My first client was at 7 a.m. because I had trades. My last client finished at 10 p.m. Didn't have a boyfriend for 8 years. This was my life basically. Yeah. And then by the time I was 23, I was running our consultancy team and we had, I don't even know how many clients we had. I think over our duration of the consultancy firm, we had 350.
Right.
And then, so I did that for a few years. And then when I was 27, I was like, fuck this. And then I went and traveled for a bit. And then I was like, this is not as fun as I thought it would be. And then I was a bit lost and I thought, I might go back into consulting. So I did. And then when I was consulting for myself, I started doing recruitment on the side and it became so popular that my full-time job was getting consumed with recruitment. And then I was like, well, do I want to get into recruitment? Because I hate recruiters, and I don't want to be known as a recruiter. Being a consultant is bad enough. I want to
talk more about that. I hate recruiters.
Oh my God, I hate them so much. It's so bad. Yeah. I'm very much an anti-recruiter.
Yeah.
So then I was like,
lucky I'm not a recruiter.
Sorry.
Lucky I'm not a recruiter.
Yeah, you're very lucky. Do you remember when we first met? Do you know what you said to me?
Tell me.
We went in your office in Marrickville.
Here we go.
And I walk in and we were introduced by, we have a mutual client, I remember him telling me, he's like, Toufic's a bit intense. And I was like, okay, I think I can handle it, but we'll see. And I walk and I sit down and you were like, I hate consultants.
That doesn't sound like something I would say.
And I was like, well, that's good because I don't like, I think I said I don't like accountants either. And then we bonded over how much we don't like each other's like respective career.
Exactly. But you know what? I find that a lot. Like in business, you find that no matter which industry you're in, the people who do well, they're people who don't like the typical insert whatever profession. Like most of what we do at Latitude Accountants is based on looking at what other accountants do really badly and things they hate and trying to not be that exact same, replica of them. And then you build up your brand around being that point of difference. So
I'll tell you something other accountants do really badly that you guys don't.
Yeah, tell me.
So most accountants, I was talking to a client like a couple weeks ago and he's not in a financially good place. And then I was like, so tell me about your accountant. And he's like, yeah, I've got a good account. I'm like, okay. How the fuck can you have a good accountant when this is what's going on? And I was like, when was the last time they pulled you up on it, tried to get you to fix it or whatever? And he's like, never. And I'm like, then what is your definition of a good accountant? Because the standard of what a good accountant is they just lodge your bass, basically. Like there's no accountability or responsibility on you to be financially good.
Yes.
And that's not you guys.
Oh, thank you.
You guys yell at me.
Well,
when I say you guys, I actually just mean Toufic. I get like abusive emails, but good abusive emails. That I think that you probably try and like dial back a little bit, but
I have to, very often I'll go back, read it and rewrite it. You know how many times I've written an email and then I'll go to John's office, say, John, help, or Jacob, help. Am I being too harsh here?
I'm going to introduce you to ChatGPT because what you can do is you can take your very angry email, drop
Make
it in
it
ChatGPT and say, make this sound nice, and then spit it out again. But you're 100% right. I always say, like, if you're just paying someone to lodge your tax return, it's not that hard. They're just
exactly.
It's about relationship. It's about people an accountant getting into your business and understanding exactly what you do and then giving you a bespoke solution.
But it's also about accountability though, John, because we're not really taught financial accountability.
Yeah.
People have a very skewed idea of what they should be spending things on and how they should be managing their money. And then no one's there going, by then it's too late when someone's pulling you up on it because, your partner's like, what the fuck, why do we have no money or whatever? So to have an account that's like, excuse me, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like that's a very valuable thing that I don't think I've never met an accountant that takes responsibility for that. So.
Yeah, that's it. And it's something Toufic taught me early on. It's like he was very invested with his client base. If I looked at the way we came up through different teams at the mid-tier we work for, he was very much like, if your business is failing, like, if your client's business is failing, I'm not going to go to sleep at night. And our team was a little bit more clinical. They were the hunters, we were the farmers. We were like, as long as we do our job well, and it's not our responsibility if their business succeeds or not. And then I started to see that if you actually get more invested, you're gonna have a better relationship. But then I guess going back into what you're doing, so you had a hate for the consulting space or the recruiting space. So then that was like a point of difference. And then you built your businesses in a with a different model.
Yeah, and then I thought, okay, I'll have a crack at this recruitment thing, and then it just grew from there. And then so TalentX, we have a very specific recruitment system that is based on our hiring success rate, which is at an all-time high at 78% now. It used to be 75, but now it's at a consistent 78. Yeah, and that means that the candidate stays 12 months or more, meets or exceeds role expectations, and isn't problematic or toxic in any way. Then no one else measures it by that. So that's TalentX. EducateX is business and staff. Excuse me. EducateX is like business and management and let me start again. EducateX is management training and accountability, creating accountability within teams. And there's very certain things you need to have accountability. And then Business PowerX is about basically your structure, your strategy, it's consulting work. So where EducateX would be training, consultancy is where we would work with a client for a series of weeks to do certain projects like create performance dashboards or look at policies and processes or even financial like management. There's a few different things that we do in that. So that's the three separate brands.
Oh, that's great. So a bit later, I want to jump in and actually ask you some questions because we've got a whole lot of value we're going to extract out of you for people watching. And really valuable stuff. And we'll be speaking about some of the things that we used in our business as well to actually improve Latitude Accountants, which we learned in the EducateX office or TalentX office. But before we do that, we've got an exciting new game. It's called it's a very original name. It's called Agree or Disagree. So
Well, Toufic's going to disagree with every one of them.
But why is disagree red? Why isn't agree red?
Exactly. That's the Toufic. That's the Toufic response.
I know, that's your
We
green
know it's
light
gonna
is
be
agree,
disagree. Just hold it like this, darling.
So how it's going to work is I'm going to read out a statement, and then you're going to have to put up your paddle, agree or disagree, and then you're going to have to share your reasons why. Okay, so let's go. Number 1, agree or disagree. Businesses often overspend on hiring top talent. Oh, okay. So Marnie, you've gone agree.
Absolutely. Do you know how expensive recruiters are for like what? Bunch of candidates that don't even screen, that you have to screen, that you have to ref check with no replacement. Are you kidding me? Yes.
So businesses often overspend on hiring top talent. So you're talking about obviously. Are you talking about the talent themselves or on the recruiters?
Either or.
Either
or you get dazzled by someone's resume, and because I've been in this role for so long and they have the right interview style, and you're like, oh my God, this person's going to be great. And it's like,
and then
you could get someone equally as
rubbish.
brilliant for 30 grand less.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to find it.
Yeah, okay, good. So you reckon yes.
How much
of that disagree?
I disagree because I think to get good staff, pay whatever the heck you need to pay. Right, we don't question our staff's pay. We'll pay them whatever they want if they're good staff.
I have to warn you, they're actually watching this.
Oh no,
No, but seriously. So you're like pay whatever you have to pay.
yeah. But I honestly I have no problem paying a recruiter for good staff. Right, so if a recruiter is good and they can demand a certain price,
spend. I suppose that it does say top talent. If they are actually top talent or perceived top talent, they're two different things. I'm talking about the perceived top talent.
Yes.
Which most people don't know how to determine.
So you'd say most people just like think that they are top talent. Do people estimate their own ability?
Yes.
how much value do you put on a resume?
Fucking not much. It depends. If it's a really heavy knowledge-based role where you need very specific experience, a number of years, yes. But most roles actually don't need to be that experience heavy.
Yeah.
Which is a very, most people hearing would be like, that's not true, but.
Well, my 5 cents is that I threw up disagree as well, because we're coming from a mindset where I don't disagree really that people can overspend on hiring top talent, but I think sometimes people way underspend and end up with talent that's underqualified, and then I feel like it's even more expensive.
But this is all tied to an idea that people have that the most expensive talent is the top talent, and that is bullshit.
Yeah.
So I would say 95% of the roles that we fill, we're not the most expensive candidate in the candidate pool. 95%.
Yeah, right.
So this is all based on everyone's general preconceived idea that you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and that is not true.
Okay, so where I'm coming from, it would be, so I don't disagree with that, but what I would be saying is, let's say you've got a position in your organization, and there's a pay category of 60 to 80,000, and then there's a pay category of 140 to 160,000. Which is, double the lower category. Sometimes when you're paying someone in that higher category, it's costing you double, but you might be getting 3 times the value.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's sometimes the we've made some mistakes in the past where we thought if you go cheap, you don't you'll save money, but sometimes it ends up costing you more money.
I would just ask you, so in most teams that I've worked in companies, the most expensive staff are not the highest performing. That's what I'll say.
Yep. All right. Fair enough. Well, let's move on. That's good. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. No.
Agree or disagree? Working from home boosts productivity and employee satisfaction.
And employee satisfaction? Well, they're two very different things. I would say overall disagree. But in satisfaction, yes.
So
they're going to be more satisfied working from home. But
tell me why you disagree, Marnie.
Because it doesn't necessarily equate one thing or another. I think whether someone works from home or in an office, determining their productivity is irrelevant of where they are. So it's not there's not always a direct relationship between someone being in office working harder, except depends on the role, depends on the company.
Why do you disagree, Toufic?
No one should work from home. I hate work from home, Marnie. Right.
Me too.
I don't know what the modern literature says about working from home.
It's the literature.
Right. But when someone is not in the office, they're missing that personal touch, and I can't see them. I don't know what they're doing, right? Obviously, that's probably an issue with my management style, but I need to have my staff around me. I just feel better that I know they're there, they're working, they're producing, right? They're following my systems, they're doing what I'm telling them to do, right? Or even not what I'm telling them to do, they're doing what our instruction
or what their role is. Yeah.
Exactly, right? But I like to see them in front of me. I like them around me. Plus, I like them as people, right? I love my staff. And I want them around me just because, in a way, they're also friends. But they're staff before they're friends, of course. But I like them around me. And frankly, I hate working from home. Absolutely hate it with a passion. It drives me nuts. I'm not motivated. I don't know how people can do it. Yeah, we do have some girls in the office that can do it. But I still think they're probably more productive in the office. In terms of productivity, what's the question, John?
The question is, working from home boosts productivity and employee satisfaction.
Okay, productivity. Does it boost productivity?
I think if you don't have a way of, okay, this is whether someone works from home or not. If you don't have a way to know if someone is productive, you're screwed, whether they're in person or not. In fact, if they're in person, you're more likely to be bamboozled by them if they're not productive because you like their personality and they're around all the time and everyone likes them. So regardless of whether they're at home or in the office, if you don't have a way to know if they're productive, you're screwed. But in general, I agree with you. I personally hate working from home, but I have 2 staff in Melbourne. I have 1 in the Gold Coast, and I have 2 in Sydney that work from home, even though they're in Sydney, and then the rest are from the office. So it really is like it could be also it could create a cultural deficit where you don't have a concept of a team. But I think just if you focus on actually measuring and knowing whether they're doing what you're asking them to do you really care? But if you do care as a founder, then don't have them work from home because it's also your business. And if that's the culture that you want, the type of team you want, then you don't have to adhere to work from home.
Yeah, this is what I'll say is exactly what Marnie's saying is right. If you've got a way of actually tracking their KPIs and they're performing, then their physical location shouldn't impact that productivity. Like if the KPIs are clear, the policies are clear, and they're following your structures, they should succeed at their role, whether they're home or work. To push back on the having them around is good, culturally, and you get to see them and all that. There is other things, a lot of the staff that we have that do work from home or remotely, they reinvest all that travel time back into work and being more productive. Getting ready for work sometimes, just being presentable in an office environment, it doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl,
so
but
some
definitely
people love it.
more.
Some people have a whole setup. They love it. They have a separate room, and they really enjoy working from home. So I think it is also person dependent.
The hybrid model is good too because some of those people can get the best of both worlds. Where let's say you're doing 2 and 3. If you're at home 2 days, then that's probably your maker time where you bog down in it and you just get through all the emails, all the work, all the production. And then when you're in the office, you're doing all your meetings and that. But do you know what's been a disadvantage for us? It's that when they come in, sometimes then they could distract the other workers who don't have that little dungeon to go do maker time in, and they disrupt everyone. So it's hard to get the balance right.
But I think it does depend on the employee, right? Some people just have no ability to work from home. And that's me, Marnie. I can't work from home. Put me at home, I'll do half an hour of work.
Yeah.
The fridge will distract me. I have to go to it 25 times. I'll eat non-stop, right? It's a disaster. I can't be at home.
Yeah,
I have to be in
that.
the office. Lock me in the office. It's good for me.
Yeah.
And obviously that doesn't apply to everyone. But as a blanket approach, let people work from home. I look at the government bodies, Marnie, and during COVID, a lot of the government bodies, a lot of their employees started to work from home. And nothing got done for 2.5 years. I think the productivity loss on all government bodies and a lot of larger institutions, I don't think they've recovered from it. It's been an absolute disaster. And they're all trying to bring people back in the office. So done poorly, and like you said, with no way to actually measure what they've been doing, it's an absolute disaster. It's a blanket approach, work from home, terrible.
Yeah. Employee satisfaction, I do have one anecdote, which doesn't answer this question, but we bought an office football last week, and we had to, because we were making we needed the footy for a reel, and then the football sat around all week, and I just noticed that because everyone was around, they started picking up the football, throwing it around, kicking it around. We even had an incident where the football ended up on the roof, and we had to try work out how to get the footy down off the roof. I thought the football was going to affect productivity, but then we had Billings meeting, and Billings were actually very good for the week.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep the football around as long as Billings trend in the right direction. As soon as Billings drop off, I'll have to get rid of the football.
Marnie, my drop kicks into Jacob's office have been excellent.
What's a drop kick? Oh, where you go like that.
Yeah, drop.
And they're like, oh, you're going to
Is that
break the
what
glass. You're going to break the
drop
glass.
kicks. When you said drop, I thought you were referring to employees.
No,
This is not going the way I wanted it to go.
I've been drop kicking from right there trying to get it inside Jacob's office.
No, literal drop kicks, not employees. All right, good to know. Agree or disagree? The toughest part of hiring today is finding qualified candidates. Disagree.
Complete falsity.
Okay, so
No comment.
Marnie, you've gone disagree. Can you shed some light on this as an expert in the field?
How much time do we have? Okay, so I think where hiring falls down is definitely not, I mean, for some roles it's really super scarce. For example, in the vet industry, some vets get one applicant per year. So let's just remove the exception, okay? There are some roles where that is definitely the case. But for the vast majority of roles that we fill, where people go wrong with hiring is they don't know how to know if a candidate is good before they hire them. It's that simple. They don't know if their personality is real and what they see in the interview is correct. They don't know if their experience and years in the role is going to equate to them being good at their job, because we've all hired someone that's been in this industry for years who's terrible. And we've hired people who haven't been in the industry for long at all and they're amazing. So they don't actually know how to determine before they hire them whether they're good or not. That, plus they don't know how to write good job ads. So the job ads give you a lot of applicants. So the way that we hire, we don't have a candidate pool and then pitch candidates to you like every other recruiter. What we do is you say, I want whatever, an office manager. And then we go out and we create a candidate pool based on that, which means that we have candidates that want that role. If you go the other way and I'm pitching you a candidate, that means I've got to sell the role to the candidate and I'm going to try and increase it and be like, oh, you want more pay? And then I'm going with you. I'm like, John, you really want this person? Well, you better pay them more because they're worth it. And then it becomes this weird bidding thing.
That is weird.
When you think about it, if you had the ability to just know if someone's valuable before you hire them and you could write good job ads, which are those two things, then you'll be swell.
I was actually in a candidate pool once, similar to the former model. The old
How long ago was
this?
this?
20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was applying for a job maybe 15 years ago. I can't remember. It was before the business. And I remember because I was his candidate, he pre-positioned me for a role I wasn't qualified for. And he told me how I need to lie in the interview to get the job. And then I went to this firm for a position I was not qualified for with all the lies he'd pre-positioned me with. And I tried to spit them out. And I did them all wrong. So I obviously didn't get the job. And then he called me after and he got angry at me because I got the lies wrong. So I think your model's a lot better because you're
Recruiters are scam artists.
So you're a terrible
Recruiters
liar, John.
are really good salespeople
Yeah.
that get something for very minimal effort and all based on they want the shiniest candidates so they can sell them for the highest bid.
Yes.
They're not actually ethical, in my opinion. Let me show you this really quickly. We can put it on the screen if you don't want to show it on the camera.
Yep.
There's the Seek average number of applicants.
Okay, so looking
that's
at
the pink one. Seek average number of
Seek
applicants.
average, you're looking at
Look at their high.
around 200 out of 200 applicants.
Yep.
Their high is more like 300, and then Talent X 1,500. So that's what we're looking at.
That's how much have a higher performing. That's of our overall. We did analysis of all our ads, and our Seek account ad manager was like, the way you guys write ads, you would by far the highest performing ad account.
So you guys are like outperforming at like 3x what your average Seek average is there, and you guys aren't even like doing any scamming. Imagine you started
I know.
scamming
Imagine
people.
if I could be like a scam artist as well. Imagine if I was dishonest.
Yeah, I know, right?
Marnie,
And most of the ads are written by recruiters. I just want to put that in there.
would you agree that most recruiters are actually just working for their candidates and trying to get them into highest
Oh, they don't
paid
work for
posts?
candidates. They work for themselves.
Yeah, they're working for the comp.
They're working for themselves based on, like, if you have two equally good candidates that are good for a role and one of them is 20 grand more, which one are they going to put forward?
20 grand, of course.
Exactly. And then if they don't work out and they have a free replacement within 3 months, do you think they're going to put forward a really good candidate for you as a replacement when they could give that and sell that to another person? I don't fucking think so. Don't get me started, please. I'm going to go on a rant. I don't like them. Don't make me talk about them.
Please tell us more.
Anyway, I forget which it was disagree, but like, no,
Yeah,
it's
so
not
the toughest
based on.
part of hiring today is finding qualified candidates. It's not the candidates.
No.
It's not their qualification level anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not. It's just knowing how. By the way, I will
What is
say
the toughest part?
it's not knowing whether they're good or not before you hire them. Because if you knew that, imagine if you had that ability where you knew that you had a 78% chance that this person's going to be amazing, and you were great at getting 3.5 times more applicants in a normal ad. Would you be worried about hiring? I don't think so. So There's one thing I will say though is you have to screen them because 78% of people do lie. So I'm not saying candidates are all amazing. I'm saying you got to know out of 100 which are the top 3 most amazing. And if you don't have that ability, you're at the whim of an interview, a really good resume, and being impressed by someone's appearance and the charming thing they say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Toufic, we've done a bit of recruiting over the years and we're always trying to recruit. What do you find like the hardest thing you're seeing, like trying to find say a business services manager in accounting? What's the hardest thing you're coming across in trying to recruit someone to fill that space?
Honestly, I agree with Marnie. It's so hard to tell how good they are, right? We, about 7-8 years ago, I did hire somebody. I had the interview with him. He said all the right words. He knew how to do everything. I asked him, I got technical with him. Do you understand how this works? Do you understand how that works? And he knew absolutely everything. He was very smart, right? He could probably do most of my own role. And he was very fairly priced. It was a no-brainer. I gave him the job offer. Took me 3 days to realise what the heck have I done, right? He actually, the very things I discussed with him, which he sort of flicked off, like, nah, it's very easy. This is all easy. You just do this, that, and this. And actually had no idea what he was doing. And I actually went to your office. I go, bro, what am I going to do? I just hired the guy 3 days ago. Do I fire him now? I feel so bad. And John's words were, oh, mate, if he's no good, why are you going to give him, for his sake and your sake, why are you going to pay him another week? Why are you going to sit him in that chair? You're wasting your time and his. Send him off to a role that is more suitable to him. Stop wasting each other's time.
Yep.
Right, which is exactly what I did. I just sat down with him.
The most fair thing you can do for them and yourself is to end the relationship and send them somewhere where they're gonna learn and grow. And
I didn't like it. I sat there, I was honest with him, right? And then I got worked up. I'm like, man, why would you say that in an interview? Why would you say this? Oh, because of A, B, C. No, just don't do that.
Yeah, he must have saw my recruiter,
don't
the one that makes you lie.
don't oversell yourself. So to answer your question, the hardest thing is, Marnie's right. How talented are they? Right? Do they know their job?
I think the key thing also is that people when they look at a candidate, they don't realize that you've got to look for 3 parts of them. There's 3 parts of a candidate. There's their knowledge, which people put above basically everything else. They think that knowledge equals performance, and knowledge and performance are 2 different things. Like everyone knows someone that isn't as knowledgeable as someone else but is more high performing, or vice versa. So knowledge and performance have to be separated. It's kind of like I might not know particularly, like I'm a very high performer and I may not know accounting stuff, but my high performance drive of getting something right and correcting myself will make me learn quicker, push through, figure it out. That's the performance aspect, which is separate to knowledge. Then the last one is personality. You can have someone who's super high performing with a terrible personality. Like a lot of salespeople are like that. You have them, it's like yeah, he's high performing, but he's such a dick. You know what I mean? Like or you can have someone who's super lovely and they're super knowledgeable and they're really lovely, but you're like, oh, they've missed every single target I've ever given them. So you have to separate these 3 parts of a human being when you're hiring them, whereas people combine them all and they go, oh, you're really charming and you made me laugh in the interview and you sound so well-spoken. Personality, that's just charm and personality. Equals you're going to be good at your job, which is not
true. I often think there's a distinction in personality as well, like when you delve deeper into it, between what I like to call talkers and doers. All right, and I'm not. Neither of them are meant to be derogatory, but I think genuinely in the world, there's some people who are really good at talking, and some people who are really good at doing. And the people who do well in interviews, obviously, are the talkers.
Which one's Toufic?
Very obvious.
All right. So
which one's John?
Who knows, right? I'm sitting in the podcast,
Such
right?
a good talker, John.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a doer than a talker. Like I force
I agree,
myself to speak, but not that being a talker is bad, because there's some roles that are perfect for people who can speak, right? But if you're looking at hiring a role where you just need someone to put their head down, work, not get distracted.
But how do you determine that before you spend the time and effort?
I'll just call Marnie Jones. Let her tell me. All right, agree or disagree? Cultural fit is more important than technical skills when hiring. All right. Marnie Jones gone red on the old disagree.
Okay, what is culture? This is a buzzword. Culture is basically
Me and Toufic are
the
Lebanese.
combined.
Is that what culture means? Is it being a Lebo? No? Okay.
No,
All right.
sorry, different podcast.
All right, go.
So culture is the combined personality of a bunch of individual personalities. That's what culture
Can you say
is.
it again?
Culture is just the combined personality,
Yep.
which is a combination. It's a group personality, which is a combination of all the individual personalities. So if the three of us are super playful and we're really high performing and this is our company, you could say we have a culture of high performing playfulness.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm like a little bit like, I want to take things slow, or I'm a bit like, whatever, I like to gossip, or, you know, I just want to like investigate everything before I try something, then we start to get a bit more of a conservative culture because I'm now impacting what the three of us were, and now I'm diluting that culture into something else, right? So culture is culture is a composite of individuals. So if you want a great culture, don't try and look at the whole group and be like, let's get ping pong tables. Look at the individuals that don't align with the type of personality or group that you want and work on that. When I say work, I actually meant in my head remove them, but it sounds a bit brutal, but depends on what type of personality that is. But if you want to work on a group culture, you need to only ever target individuals. And that's where people go wrong, is they think if we do a team event, if we do team training, if we have a ping pong table, we're going to have a good culture. And we all know, and you will, if you haven't learned already as a business owner, you will learn that is not what creates good culture.
Okay. Toufic?
You want someone to fit in, to understand how other people talk, right? And I think I wrote agree because in my mind I thought, you throw someone toxic into an office, they ruin the vibe, right? It just becomes a less attractive place to work. You don't enjoy being there. So I think I went straight to the negative. But Marnie, negative people, toxic people, even if they're brilliant at their work, right? Johnny, we've had some toxic people in the past, right?
We're not naming names.
We're not naming names, but
Toufic and John.
right. And some people themselves can sometimes fit very well culturally, and they have a bad day and they become toxic.
Of course,
On
yeah.
Tuesday afternoon when they've had a fight with their wife, they become toxic, whatever, right?
I actually just realised I misread the question. Cultural fit is more important. What you mean is that you don't want to choose technical skill over them being a bad personality or a bad egg. Yeah, of course I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
misunderstood the question.
No, well, you explained it well, and I think it's good actually defining what culture is, because I've always thought about culture, and we even do like bonuses and include culture in it and all that, and we don't actually understand what it is. But you gave me a definition which is helping me formulate my my thoughts around it. I think if you find people that are virtuous and they are strong in their virtues, then you will create a virtuous culture.
Absolutely.
And then you have a good culture.
Absolutely.
If people are low on virtue, you know, honesty, hardworking, you know, sacrificial, all these typical virtuous things, then you're going to create, you know, a bad environment because they're lacking in virtues. So hire virtuous people. It doesn't mean you just hire Lebos or Aussies or whatever. It means you hire...
Don't hire Lebos.
You know what? That's a headline. Marnie Jones. Don't hire Lebos. No, but like it's exactly what it is. Cultural fit is not, you know, your ethnicity.
My favourite clients are all Lebanese, by the way.
Yeah, I know, of course.
Marnie, one bad apple, it can ruin a whole office.
Absolutely.
One angry person on a Tuesday can ruin the whole Tuesday.
That's right.
I was angry on Tuesday. You're talking about me?
No. You're angry on Wednesday. You're angry on Wednesday, actually.
I agree.
Yeah, all right. That's good. All right, now let's move on. Because we've got you here, we want to ask you some questions. You're the expert in all things talent, recruitment, business consulting. You've worked with hundreds of companies and thousands of staff.
Yep.
What are the key things that stop them from scaling?
Okay, there's two key things that will stop you from scaling. There's two, so one is accountability. Now, accountability means answerable to or will happen because of them. So if you're accountable, it'll happen because of you. It also means that you are the source of energy for that thing. So if I make you my sales manager, if you're truly accountable, you'll be the source of energy for that thing. I don't need to instigate any effort whatsoever, and I know that it will get done and you will execute and achieve whatever we set out, right? The problem is with accountability is that most business owners hire a bunch of people and they are still the source of energy for everything. They have to ask, has this been done? Where is that? What about that? Why don't we do this? And they have to still push and push and push. And they end up basically with a bunch of assistants, but they're still the source of energy for everything.
Yes, I hate that.
Yeah.
If I have to ask for something twice, you can't, like, you could do anything, like absolutely anything to me and I'll forgive you. But if I have to say, hey, can you create this PDF?
Yeah.
And then I remember in 2 weeks you haven't done it, and I have to come up to you and ask you for it again. It's very offensive to me.
It drives business owners
again.
nuts. Yeah, this stuff is like, why don't you just do what I freaking ask you to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the accountability, if you don't know how to make someone else be the source of energy for something, you will not scale. So that's the first thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Doesn't matter what else you have. If you are not good at getting someone else to be the source of energy, you will get stuck. And then scalability without that has a very specific ceiling. Like I have a client who has 75 staff and he works like 120, 150 hours a week because he pays $2.5 million on his payroll for management team only. And he is a source of energy for all of it.
So if you're the battery sort of pushing everything along all the time, are you creating a bad environment for that accountability? Because now they're not responsible. You're responsible for literally pushing them like from this point to this point. Then
yes,
this point to
it is all created by you and it's your fault. But it doesn't also necessarily mean that the staff are terrible. Like just because that's happening with the management team, I'm not sitting here thinking your management team's shit. I don't think that.
Yep.
What it means is you've created a culture around accountability and you need to shift that. And there's a very specific way that you create accountability in someone else. So that's the first thing you need.
Yep.
But Marnie, how do you convince a business owner to take a certain part of their business that is so important and just say, here, I'm going to make you accountable for it. You take over. I don't want to tell you twice.
Yep.
Right? Take control.
Yep.
How do you give that up as a business owner?
Good question. So the first thing is you've got to be good at hiring. If you're not good at hiring and you don't know what you've got when you've hired them and you can't confirm if they're good at what they do, it doesn't matter what else you have in place. You're not going to feel confident handing that accountability over, right? So you have to be good at hiring. The other thing, which leads to my next thing, is you have to be good at creating reference points of information that aren't you. So say we're in a company, the three of us, I convince you guys to leave Latitude and I'm like, let's go start a bakery. And we want to have a state-of-the-art bakery. And we verbally agree on how we're going to do things. We use this supplier because they're better. We're not going to do it this way. We end up winning some awards. We make some amazing bread. We're making heaps of money. We think, fuck, this is easy. Let's go make another one down in Melbourne. So we go make another one and then we hire a bunch of staff there and it starts to go to shit because now we haven't created another reference point for them to operate off. So they're going to go to us. That's right.
Story.
So the best reference point that you can use is policy. Now, policy is a very misunderstood subject. People think policy is a rule or regulation. It is not. Like, scrap that definition out of your head. People think policy like kill me. And most policy is at Latitude, read this and then say I'm onboarding you and I'm at Latitude, read this. Okay, but that's not really how we do it. Like you just read that and sign that off and that you're never going to read that ever again. Let's go. This is how we actually do things. So there's often a disconnect between policy and how a business actually runs. So my definition of policy is a documented, successful way to do something that solves yesterday's issues and prevents tomorrow's troubles. Very specific. So that means the person writing the policy better be the most high-performing person. They know exactly how to do it. They've done it before. Yep. And you've codified it in a way that is either solving something that went wrong yesterday or preventing an issue for the future. Now, if you codified the top successful actions for each role in your business, you are really great at hiring, and then you're really good at making someone else accountable for something, which is a management skill. That's a management skill, by the way. Those three things you can scale effortlessly. Now, this is the best way to scale in an organized way. This is not how most people scale. How most people scale, which is like 99% of companies I come across, is they hire a bunch of really high performing staff, overpay them, and then they wear the burden for them, and they're the ones overworked, and they're the ones that don't see their family, and they're the ones that can't go on holiday. That's how most people do it, especially in construction.
Yep.
I don't recommend that way because it's very unstable, and if it's reliant on a couple people, if they go, and it's very high risk.
Yep.
So the first way is definitely the harder way because how many businesses do you know are good at creating accountability and others, great at hiring, and good at creating policy or reference points that staff don't go to them for everything, they go to the policy for questions.
Yes. That's actually one of the big things we picked up from you early on. Like when we went to meet with you probably 3 or 4 years ago in our journey.
Remember my little office?
Your
my little baby office?
Said, hey, listen, this is what we've done. We think it's all right, but it can be 10 times better. And then we set some stupid, crazy goals that were on the way to meeting. But the first thing you said to us was
that you didn't believe. You were like, nah. And now you guys have like smashed it.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, show us your policy. And we're like, our policy, like, what do you mean?
What's that?
And what's that? And then we sat down and we actually
No, you didn't say what's that. I remember you telling me how terrible policy. I mean, you were like, policy's stupid. No one reads it. No.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. So we've done a lot on policy and we're working on it, and it's great. But I want to say this is the hard bit now. Is like businesses are dynamic. So what happens when like we are probably finding new and better ways to do things every few months.
Great.
So part of the job is like we're creating a job in like having to go back and update policy and all that sort of thing. So how do you go between this is how we do it versus finding better ways to do it and then being like flexible and go, okay, we've actually learned something by
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'll say two things. First thing is you want to try and make sure that you write policy thinking with at least 3 and 5 years as much as you can. There's some things that you can't do that with. For example, social media and advertising. It changes so much because of you're at the whim of different softwares and the way things are built that I wouldn't even probably bother writing a lot of policy on it. Maybe the principles of it, like you do, it's funny because you got to realize that when you're trying to codify what you do, people tell me all the time, I can't codify what I do.
Yeah. But the principle you can.
There's a principle behind everything that you do.
Yep.
So
marketing policy, get leads.
Well, yeah.
Maybe a bit more
but it would probably be more like we've learned no matter what it is or how it is, every time we 10x the number of posts we do, we always get leads.
Yeah.
That's something you can work with now or in 3 years, whether the algorithm is working for clicks or this or that. Do you see how that's relevant forever? And it's it's got to be usable.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put things in policy that's like.
Policy is Bible.
Yeah, it's like, but it's something that you refer to and you use.
Yep.
So it's not something that sits on a shelf. So that's the first thing is you want to try and make it as applicable for as long period of time. That's the first thing I'll say. The second thing is you got to realize it's your job as a founder. And so it doesn't matter. It's funny, we have this idea around policy. I wrote it once. It should just stay done forever. Like founders are terrible like that. They're like, I told them once, they should know. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe, but like that's not the way that it is, right? So there is also a reality that as you do evolve and as you do grow, it is your job and it's a part of your job that most founders don't get to because they're stuck in other jobs in their company. But your main job is policy. And when you think about, I'm getting excited, when you think about that definition of policy being a successful action documented, isn't that the most important thing you should be working on? Because that's your IP of what you do and how you do it. It's the only way you're going to scale. That IP of how McDonald's runs it is way more valuable. How valuable is the IP of how to run multiple locations at once for McDonald's run by 15-year-olds making millions of dollars? They've nailed it. They're specialists in policy, actually. Yeah. So that becomes the most important thing you can do if you do it right. But it is a complicated, like I make it sound simple, but you got to write a policy and you're like, well, that depends on this. Then you go over here and it gets a bit complicated. Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of doing a Marnie Jones course is the mandatory viewing of a founder segment from the Founders movie where they set up the
McDonald's brothers.
McDonald's brothers set up a basketball court, I think it is, and they lay out all the equipment and then they try to work out the most efficient way to make the burger, and then they keep rearranging it. And then they eventually get the perfect formula. And then I ate way too many Big Macs. All right. So accountability isn't just a personal matter, but a financial one too. Can you break down how financial outcomes are directly tied to accountability?
Well, accountability. What's the question?
Accountability isn't just a personal matter, but a financial one too.
Yeah, it's a financial matter, yeah.
Can you break down how financial outcomes are directly tied to accountability? So,
yes, I can. So no two roles in a company can be accountable for the same outcome. So this is one of the biggest things that we first sort out with our consultancy. Like I come in and it's like, I'm like, who's accountable for profit? And there's often many different people accountable for profit. I'm like, there can be no more than one person accountable for profit, right? But you can have different roles accountable for certain aspects to do with the profit. For example, sales sells at a forecasted profit. Accounts reports on profit. And then delivery delivers to that profit margin. And then you might have the general manager is responsible for coordinating everyone to get that profit to be executed. So you can't, when it comes to finances, you've got to split every aspect of what you do and ask which role is accountable for which thing. Otherwise, what ends up happening is I've sat in many strategy days where the profit's down and it's like that Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing at each other going, well, you're accountable and you're like, okay, here's a good one that is very confused. Who's accountable for generating leads? Marketing or sales? Very
marketing,
confusing.
Always.
Is
That's
it?
my answer.
Okay, so then if marketing doesn't have leads, if marketing isn't generating leads, sales can just sit back and go, oh, that's marketing's fault? Yes. You see, this is a confusing area, right? So unless you define every single aspect that's causing confusion, you can't hold them accountable because accountable means you're the source of energy for that thing. So I can't make you the source of energy for something unless it's super clear that you are the only person who's accountable for that. Yeah. So that's how it relates to a financial thing. If you look at every aspect of what it means to be financially powerful, it's sales, marketing, reporting, spending. There's a whole bunch of different aspects to be financially.
That's 100% right. So Toufic, I think our management styles are a little bit different. Like when it comes to accountability, I like to just say things once and assume people will do it forever for 1,000 years without me talking to them again. and your view is, if I tell you at 9 a.m. to do something and I haven't heard back from you at 9:07 a.m., you'll be at their desk saying, hey, where's that thing? How do you, what do you think about the accountability and the way you do things, and what's your mindset around prodding all the time?
There is some personal differences. I'm more anxious than you.
Yeah.
Right. My mind goes to a dark place. Oh no, the whole business is going to fall apart, right? Because they haven't done A, B, and C of what I've told them to do. And it's 9, 10 in the morning. I told them at 9 o'clock, right? The world's going to end. So me being an anxious person, it does stop me from being able to say, you know what, this is what you're accountable for. You need to take ownership of this. You need to take control, and I will get the reporting at the month's end. John is a very efficient person. When we sat with you, Marnie, we talked about avoidable work, and that went a long way with us. Right, and Johnny is the king of how do we stop avoidable work.
What is avoidable work?
What is avoidable work? That's a little quiz for you guys. Were you listening? Do you tell me?
We know what the concept is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like stuff that you shouldn't have to do.
Yeah, great. It's something that could have been avoided if it were organised or managed or someone was accountable for it. It's anything unnecessary.
And it's unnecessary for me at 9, 10 in the morning to tell them, I asked you to do this at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Why haven't you done it at 9, 10?
That's right, it is.
Right, there's so much. Johnny is the king of
Shutting down
avoidable work.
Great.
Right? But it's just the anxiety in me, unfortunately, sometimes stops me from being able to just hand over, trust them that everything is going to go to plan, because there is real tangible outcomes. I want our clients to be serviced to the nth degree the way I like it, right? And we do implement that. We do write that in policy. We've got everything I want. All our outcomes are written in our policy.
Great.
Right? But it's just so hard to just hand it over and leave them alone and create that accountability. Yeah. It's a skill that I struggle with versus John. John is the king of handing over a task, handing over accountability and saying, you know what, this is you. You're going to do this. You're going to take control. You are going to be the source of energy. And I will see the reports, and I'm going to allow you to deal with it over the next month, and we'll see how we go. Well, I'll struggle with month. No.
Yeah.
9:30. Tell me what's happening at 9:30. I can't wait 1 month to see how it goes. And here's the thing. If we look at the outcomes, I can't say I've had better outcomes being anxious, right? It does not create better outcomes to choke somebody. I do agree with that, but it's just a personality thing.
I think that's fine. I think as long as that expectation is known by your staff and they know that that's what you're like. And I would also put it more in the ball in their court. Like if I were you, I'd be like, okay, so I need to know by this time how you're going on it. So I need you to come and let me know. But then you see how you're still pushing for them to be the source of energy for it. It's totally fine to have that expectation. You're entitled to that as a founder, that you want to work in that way, and that's completely fine. And to be honest, they'll probably end up better off because of it, because they might forget by accident. Staff aren't normally malicious. It's a very small percentage of staff that are actually actively malicious or trying to undo things. They might forget, or they've got something else on, and then they don't want you to be mad at them either. Like staff want to do well, and they want to know what you want from them. So don't be afraid of just saying, hey, I don't want to ask you about this again. Like, I really don't want to ask you about it again. I want you to come to me and I want you to tell me. And then they go, like, I refuse to be the source of energy. I don't want to know anything about this. And normally staff are like, no problem. The only reason why staff are hesitant, and this is to be fair on staff, because a lot of owners talk about how shit staff are, and yeah, there are a lot of shit staff out there, but there are a lot of shit owners out there. Like a lot. You guys know that, right? Like there's a lot of terrible owners out there too. So to be fair on them,
clients, but all the other clients, are all the
none of our clients. No. But one of the things I want to say about that is that staff want to do well, and the reason why they don't want to take on accountability a lot of the time is because they've been burnt for it, because most companies don't have policy. So I say to you as my staff, go figure it out. You go figure it out, present it to me. And then I'm like, well, not like that. Yeah. And they're like, well, fuck, dude, I'm just doing what you asked me to do. And I'm like, well, and then I'm thinking, oh, these fucking idiots. I just hide them and I look how much. And then you guys are going, well, can you just tell me what you want? So then they just give up trying to be the source of accountability because they don't want to fail. So that's why policy is really important, because it guides them. And then you literally outright saying, I'm not going to solve this for you. Like, you are actually really smart. Do you remember that other thing you did last week without me? You're brilliant. Go solve it. Go and present it to me. And they often respond really well to that.
All right.
Johnny, let me ask you, how do you hand over a function of our business, right? A very important function. Yeah, we build the policy, but then you go to sleep at night and allow them to take
it's
control.
Faith, darling. You got to have a bit of faith.
And it doesn't stress you like it stresses me.
Yeah, look, the way I deal with delegation is that I'm not ultimately delegating anything without there being a backstop or a safeguard. There's always a fallback. Like if I'm speaking rugby league terminology, there's always something there. If you give someone a task, the safety stop may be the fact that there's an outcome which they're going to have to meet. So I've got leeway. I could say,
or they know you're going to check in on Monday or something.
Yeah,
like,
it could be outcomes based. It could be, hey, I'm going to hand over this social media marketing to you. I know that last year I generated 730 leads in social media marketing. If you don't generate 730 or more in 12 months' time, I'll be able to then know that you didn't perform as well as I wanted you to. But I'm having a bit of faith there because I'm deferring my judgment, not from 9 a.m. to 9:07, from 1 July 2024 to 1 July 2025, and I'm giving it the person 12 months to really understand the role and to find their feet. And it's the same with everything. Sometimes we just preemptively prejudge things too quickly. It could be a new advertising stream, like marketing, advertising. It could be an actual candidate in a role. Like if you give someone time, obviously the sooner you can find out something's going wrong, the less money you're going to lose. But at the end of the day, just some people take a bit more time than others to develop. And if you're just patient and you're willing to lose a bit of money, in the long run, you might save money because you've uncovered a good talent.
There's only one other thing I want to say really quickly, and I know that we don't have much time.
Yep.
Another thing early on in your relationship with the staff member, you need to get their agreement that you're going to correct them. You need to say, look, I'm going to correct you. If you fuck up 10 times in a day, I'm going to correct you 10 times a day. I'm not going to wait in 3 months. No, I'm going to correct you. Now, I might correct you 50 times in the first 3 months, but after that, you will be so much better off without me. And they will nod and agree. And then I even say to my staff, I'm like, you're nodding and you're smiling, but there are times you're going to hate this because I'm actually going to correct you. Now, I'm going to make you brilliant because I want you to be better than me at this, and I want you to be accountable for this. When you have that agreement, you don't, because a lot of managers don't feel like they can correct.
Yep.
They're like, well, I corrected them yesterday. I don't want to upset them and it's too much. So I know it seems so basic, but no one gets agreement with staff that they're going to correct them. And that simple thing of like, and they go, are you okay with that? And they say yes. And you go, okay. And then when it comes up, you're like, you're looking mad. Like, yeah, well, I'm pissed off because you already said, I'm like, I got it, but I've got to correct you, mate. Like we talked about this and my job's to make you brilliant. So go take a little break if you need, go have a cup of coffee, whatever you want, but we're going to keep going and I'm going to correct you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I picked up about you, and this is probably all your skill coming out, maybe your personality, but you're very good at control. Okay. And I don't mean that in a bad sense.
Control's a great word.
Yeah, control.
Very misunderstood word.
So it's misunderstood. And I think, the reason why I feel it's misunderstood is because people don't understand how valuable it is. 2 ways I see you have control. One is when you're talking about like staff, and the other one is when we're speaking about clients. And like I think the first time I heard in a positive light the phrase control the client was from you. So can you just in a brief way explain to us what the concept of control is?
Yeah, sure.
And how you use it to your advantage?
Yeah, control, in order to control something, which means that you can dictate what happens with it or where it goes. That's control, right? So you have to have, the most important part of control is setting it up. And that's the part that everyone misses. It's also what they miss in relationships, romantic relationships. People start relationships without sitting down and going, what do you need and want from me? Like very specifically, like how do you want to handle me when I'm, like how do you need me to handle you when you're upset? Are you the type where if especially for women don't do this, where they're like, I'm telling you to go away, but actually I want you to keep talking to me. If you don't know that, you're just going to walk away and I'm going to think you're a dick, right? So setting up at the start of any relationship, whether it's a neighbor, your friends, it could be with a colleague or with a client or with a staff member, you have to set it up at the start. That is the easiest, best way to get control, and no one does it. No one does it. So when I have my staff and I onboard them and I have a full 3 hours with them where I go through very specific things. I define policy, I define accountability. I'm like, I'm going to push you, I'm going to make you great, I'm going to correct you. And then I also talk about my management style, which is very different to you guys, which you should definitely do. I'm very macro manager. Like if you want a manager that's going to talk to you every day, you're going to be miserable with me. Like you're going to have to chase me if you want to talk to me. You might see me once or twice a month. Like that's how much I have going on. So setting that up means that you don't have a staff member starting where they're so excited because they're impressed by Marnie in a job interview. They start in a role and then they're sitting at dinner with their mates a week later. They're like, I was so excited about starting here, but now I'm like, she never talks to me. She corrects me every day. She's such a bitch. And this is just not what I thought the company would be. So people's expectations and what they think and reality are often very separate. Like I assume because you and I have a lot of affection when we're dating that you're going to be great at handling me when I'm upset. And then the second I'm upset and you don't deal with me properly, suddenly you're like, I don't like you. So it's the separation between your expectation and reality. So you've got to bridge that gap with a very, very honest, succinct and specific conversation in that relationship of what you need and want from each other or how something's going to play out.
Very good. Any thoughts on that, Toufic? Good. All right. So
I will say one more thing.
You're very well spoken, Marnie.
Oh, thanks. And so the control, that's the setup of it.
Yeah.
And then to continue that and to close it off, you have to have a repeated reference to that thing, and then a comparison of whether or not it was achieved. And that's the end. That's
All right.
control.
You set expectations with staff, with clients, with all your stakeholders.
relationships,
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely. I just ended a relationship I was dating.
ended a guy.
I ended him.
I feel sorry for his family.
He didn't talk to me when I told him not to talk to me, and he should have known.
Yeah.
No, we did we had a conversation, and I was like, this is not matching up.
Yeah.
So,
Then you ended him.
and then I ended him. I just like,
All right. So look, we've got a someone who knows recruitment in the here, and it wouldn't be fair to everyone watching if we didn't ask, what's the single best bit of advice you could give someone who is interviewing for a job?
so the candidate. Okay, first of all, don't lie. And second of all, if I was a candidate and I wanted to not bamboozle, that's the wrong word. If I wanted to impress an employer, I would focus on my achievements and outcomes that I've achieved. And I would then also ask them what they need and want from this role. Like, no one does that. No candidate sits there and goes, so what is it that you really want from me? Like, do you want me taking on the whole thing, John, when you say social media? Like, have you ever had someone in the role that's done really well? Like, is there a reference point here that I'm trying to meet, or you've never had someone do well? And when you start talking like that as a candidate, because I don't know if candidates are listening, if you heard John's frustration before, like the idea of telling someone to do something and them not updating me or have to tell them twice, anything where the owner is going to feel, or the person who's interviewing is going to feel like it's off their plate and you're going to be the source of energy for that thing, absolute dream for business owners. Yep. So I would focus on how you're going to become the source of energy for that thing, and what they need and want from you specifically, so you can speak to that.
Nice. I feel that resonates with me as a business owner.
Can I ask a question, Marnie? What do you say to business owners who have staff who are complacent, but you leave them there just because it's too hard to bother to replace them?
Get rid of them. Do you know? No, it's not too hard. This is the thing. Remember, the definition of policy is a documented successful way to do something, right? You just haven't figured out the policy of hiring. No one's figured it out except me, but trying to be factual about this. Like, that's why TalentX is so special. Is because we have nailed a very specific series of steps and things you check before you hire someone, so that we know that you have pretty much an 80% chance they're going to be great, and if not, we replace them anyway for free. So it's like, whatever, it's at least going to be great the next time. But that is actually what business owners need to focus on. I would get out of your head that hiring is hard. It's not. Do you know how many people how many good staff there's heaps of good staff out there. You just don't know how to attract them, or how to screen for them, or how to know if they're good or not. That's all it is.
So your advice to business owners is don't settle.
Absolutely not.
Get rid of them and go to market.
Well, then what kind of
Get rid of them. Call Marnie Jones.
Well, what kind of culture?
She'll end them. Marnie Jones will end every bad candidate you ever had, and any boyfriend.
Any boyfriends? You want him gone? I will. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I think. I mean, it depends what kind of company you want. If you're happy with that, then you're happy with that. It's your business. Honestly, it's like you can do whatever you want. It's your business, and I think that's lost as well. It's like, if you want to, it's totally fine. If you want to hire someone because they're pretty, hire someone because they're pretty. It's whatever you want.
That's it.
That's why I've got hired in the past.
At Latitude Accountants, we believe the small business owner is the hero of the community. Our goal, our vision, is to help 1,500 small business owners achieve their goals and dreams. That vision you helped us write probably 3 or 4 years ago. I know you believe vision is important. So, what's the vision and what's the future look like for TalentX and Marnie Jones?
That's a very beautiful vision, by the way.
Thank you.
That's really beautiful. I would love to help if you want. I love people and communities and business owners.
She's saying it's beautiful because she was part of putting it together.
No, I'm just saying it's nice. It's a very gorgeous purpose.
Are you on track?
That's special. You guys are special. I love you both very much. That's a very responsible way of looking at business. And I think that is what business owners should be doing, is looking at how they can impact and improve their community. And anyway, I think that's beautiful. What is the future for me?
Yeah, you and your business. Where are you going to be in 10 years?
10 years? I don't think that far.
You have to.
I have a lot of more personal stuff. I do a lot of stuff with volunteering and charities. I don't really think with number of clients, or I don't really have a vision like that. Yeah. And I already do.
Well, who are you looking to help? Who specifically is the target person that would benefit from working with TalentX?
Basically, TalentX is different to EducateX, and anyone who's hiring can use TalentX. Anyone who's struggling with staff and management, which normally happens around the 10 to 20 staff mark, they start to feel the pain of that. And then if you're at people who can't scale, they're hitting a ceiling of like, I know that if I doubled my revenue right now, I would be in trouble. If you're thinking like that because you can't scale it, then that would be where you might need that. But in terms of like my own vision or I've just started to work with Our Big Kitchen. It's run by a rabbi in Bondi, and he feeds 1,000. He provides 1,000 meals a day. And I went to meet with him a few weeks ago, and I just fell in love with him. I'm like, this man is so beautiful, and I'm gonna do they have also, by the way, as a little freaking thing that you guys should do for culture is they have team days. Where if you want to do a team building day, you bring your team from 9 till 12 in the morning, and then you guys spend the morning listening to music in a huge kitchen making meals for the hungry. And it's I went in there and Toyota were in there, the big corporates go and do it. Cool. And the vibe was amazing. And so really nice. I'm now at a point where I can do that program with him. So I'm doing it with him to help him and his company as much as I can because of how many people he helps. That's the stuff that I want to do. The luxury of helping other people and giving is my... Awesome.
Marnie Jones, you've given us so much value. Thank you so much for jumping on the pod. After many, many months of trying to get you on,
I'm just glad Toufic's here.
Yeah. Can you tell our viewers where they can find you online, socials?
I don't have socials, actually. I just have LinkedIn and my website. You can go to talentx.com.au, or you can find Marnie Jones on LinkedIn and reach out if you like.
Awesome.
Or you can ask you guys and you can link us up.
And Toufic Haddad, where can everyone find you online?
I'll try to hide as much as I can.
Me too.
Go to latitude.com.au. You'll see John. John's my spokesperson.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks for jumping
on. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you.